Hello everyone, welcome back for Immortals versus TSM, a battle that many thought would be, a sort of bottom table bout, but based on yesterday, both teams really impressed.
Both teams coming off some really strong games. TSM had by far their best game, I think, of the year, even including lock-in. They looked really strong against TL. They were able to have some good proactivity, I think, matching some of these plays that TL was trying to go for, coming out on top in a lot of these fights. And I do think that Huni had a much better game. Huni has been a weakness for TSM. In his interview post-game, he talked about, some of their struggles with coordination, and that looked like it had been shored up. Immortals as well, coming out on top over EG, one of the teams that has been at the top of the table. Xerxes and Revenge in particular really did seem to pair up to create a lot of action for the team. And Insanity bringing out the Tristana mid. I like the Seraphine bot lane for Raze. I think they had some nice wrinkles to this draft, pretty creative stuff, and I think they're picks that should be seeing higher priority.
Absolutely agree. I mean, I'm a super big Seraphine fan in terms of her power level. Like, she should be played in almost every single game. I am surprised more teams aren't picking her up because she really should be in almost every single draft, even if it's just the ban list. And so I'm glad we have teams like Immortals who will pick her up, play her in multiple roles, and then have comps that work based on which role she's played in. So big fan of that one. On the TSM side, I want to sort of share my thoughts, one negative and then one positive. The negative is a lot of people gave TSM so much credit for the last game. Like, look how well the early game went. Finally good game for TSM. But a big part of why that game went well was because of one team fight in bot lane, where like PoE TP'd down reactively to an aggressive play. You are not going to get that fight every single game. They did not do a ton proactively in that game. They have not definitively solved their early game problems. And that's the negative I want to share. The positive is, but their mid and late game are still very, very good, right? They only have the one kind of big weakness. They're still 3-2, they've still managed to get to this point in time, but, they have not just unequivocally solved their early game just because of one good play in one game.
I agree completely. It hasn't been solved. Even in that game, their solo lanes were actually losing the laning phase, but I still think it's baby steps, right? It's improvement. This is a team that I think, especially in some of the earlier games, had looked very rough, and their previous 2 wins, they looked lucky to get. That last win yesterday, I think, was their first solid win where it was like, hey, you played a really good game, you coordinated well, and those are the kind of steps that people want to see, because I think a lot of people know TSM has high potential to be a strong team with some of the individual players on this team, but they have got to be able to coordinate, they have got to be able to come together and really improve week over week. Getting into the draft here, we see Seraphine is actually banned out here by TSM, so worried about a potential pick for Insanity or Raze. Kai'Sa remaining high priority, and with the Hecarim coming in, you're already seeing some of the makings of a potential dive comp.
Yeah. Ironically, one that could use Seraphine really well, but obviously that's going to get taken maybe first pick, so, I get it. I'm not saying this is a bad draft, just, man, wouldn't Seraphine work great in this comp? I love the back and forth Kayn hovers, though. I'm glad that Spica still hovers it every game. His LCS debut was the rare no upgrade Kayn. It was a tragic game. It was really, really horrible. Since then, it got a lot better. He's still been a pretty solid performer. Regardless, though, we get the horse comp on both sides there. Hecarim on one side, Lilia on the other, with, some pretty solid engage, right? Insanity getting his most played. The Orianna's back up with a Camille debut.
Okay, Camille coming through here for Revenge once more. This is actually the same pairing for jungle and top that they did have yesterday against EG. We'll see what the answer will be here for Huni. And also, if there's going to be anything like any sort of support Galio or whatever coming through, I think Galio could actually be pretty high priority, potentially for either side. I do think Galio works well, both with the Hecarim as well as with that Camille. Victor, I would be very excited to see, and it is actually going to get locked in here. So cool. Victor coming out has not been very popular in the LCS, but I tend to think it's a pretty strong pick these days. Have been seeing it more in solo queue, and I do think that ever since they actually changed his passive and you add in the new items, you have more flexibility in your earlier build path. It's more comfortable for him to get towards early mana items, which make his laning phase, I think, somewhat stronger.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think it's really nice. He gets to build the Mythic on par, and because his mana per level went up, he got a pretty similar compensation, and he was overtuned for a while. They figured it out. I think it's a great champion. Definitely good stuff. Comes with free rallies in the ultimate once you help and everything. It's pretty solid. Now looking at any desynced roles, of which there's a couple. You've got an unanswered top laner on one side, unanswered bot laner on the other. So, yep, top lane bans for Immortals. What kind of things could Huni play that would be good into Camille? Well, I'm still curious if Jack's going to be on that list, because Jax has tended to win that side of the matchup almost every single time. Huni's the kind of guy who I feel like should know Jax, so that really is where my eyes are leaning. Thresh and Senna go off the table as things Lost and sort of don't want to play around. Still waiting, though, for Immortals' last ban.
While you would think it would be a Huni-style pick, he only has 4 Jax games in his entire career, right? And he doesn't seem to be bringing it out. So maybe TSM don't want to play that style. Maybe they're not comfortable with him on it, or for some reason he doesn't really like the champion. But it's not going to be banned out. So at the very least, Immortals don't seem to be worried about it. And until Huni actually shows us that he's going to play it, I don't think they have a reason to worry. I think you could go towards something like a Malphite. You can go tanks like even Ornn. Huni seems to be defaulting to the Gnar an incredible amount of the time, so I wouldn't be shocked to just see him go towards that. I think Shen is a great answer, though. It fits the bill both as a tank. It also enables the Hecarim. You can ult onto the Hecarim for those backline dives to be that dive buddy for him. And it also does just straight up win the matchup against Camille. Camille really needs to either get ahead with the jungler or get multiple items in before you start actually winning this 1v1. Because Shen, I think even at 1 item completed, at 2 items completed, you can easily win this. And if you're ahead, you can continue to win this matchup for a very, very long time. As long as you have good parry timings, you just need to use the parry to actually avoid the true damage Q that could potentially come through.
So TSM going to give Sword Art counterpick yet again. Obviously could have claimed the Alistar, is a great champ alongside a Kai'Sa, is great against a Camille. They weren't ever going to lose their Shen, but they said, no, we would rather get counterpick on support than grab priority down there. I also like the Shen for another reason, which is I think TSM have played better and better the more they can focus on bot lane. It's 2 games in a row now. We get Pantheon support for Sword Art to let him play aggressively, to let him kind of lead the charge here. And a lot of it is from watching the Pantheon game last time, he mostly stayed in lane. The less he's been roaming towards mid, the better TSM have looked. Shen can come down. Obviously, Hecarim can dive there as well. Pre-6, Xayah is incredibly diveable, so I want to see TSM focus bot. I think it looks good when they do so, and we'll see if Raze and Destiny can handle that, because they have not had a good landing phase so far this year.
No, they haven't, and sometimes you're able to kind of paper that over with some of the unique picks. We saw them bring out the Seraphine yesterday, where it's less important to have an incredible laning phase because of all the utility you bring. When you're playing a champion like Xayah, you need gold. Your job is to do damage. That's what you're there for. It's not about the utility. So it will be interesting to track that matchup, and it also does really add another champion on top to help assist with a dive. We have the Hecarim ult to reach that backline. We have Pantheon now. We have the Shen ult to follow up. Kai'Sa has come through to be able to dive in the backline. Even Victor has not the best backline access, but decent. There's pretty long range actually on the laser, and you can throw your ultimate in fairly far away to chase down onto people, especially if they are getting CC'd. So a pretty clear objective here over on their side. And then you're looking over at what Immortals want to do. They have some pretty solid split push here, you have to say. Grasp being taken by Camille to try to help assist with that lane, and their 5v5 is also very powerful. They have a lot of AoE as far as the damage between Xerxes and Insanity. They have the potential follow-up of a multi-man Xayah route, a lot of engage, so I do think they mostly want to be looking for kind of more the front-to-back 5v5 style, play some side lane with revenge, whereas I think Huni, Spica, it's going to be their job to find different engage angles, to try to get flanks, to try to get onto the backline here of Immortals and really disrupt their game plan.
All right, on to the Rift we are. Nice. I love any player who will drop the ward at the end of the recall. You can drop wards, I believe control wards as well, while actively channeling recall. It will not stop the recall. And so you get your ward as late as possible, right? It's going to start timing out from the second you put it on the ground, so the later that you can place it, the longer that ward lives and is useful. Switch to sweeper as expected. And this is one of the little microcosms of bot lane, is occasionally you'll have a champion like Alistar where at level 1, they can't walk on you. They can't do anything. But you can't face check them because, you know, they'll just pulverize you and you lose. And so you have to like sit in the brush and wait for them to walk up. Nice sweeper play. Nice adaptation. Okay, it's not in the brush. We'll check left side. Okay, we found it. TSM going for the deep invade. And this red is going to be poached away. Now, it's not going to delay Lilia all that much. Xerxes was already willing to kind of give this one up. But it does mean he's going to be a little bit late to this Raptor start.
This is actually really interesting. Xerxes really did anticipate that dive. He was invade rather, not dive.
Yeah.
He was standing in mid lane. He wasn't actually committed to either side of the jungle, so I think he was worried about the potential late invade here with the level 1 on Pantheon. It's very, very strong. So he was ready to either go to his red buff if they didn't go for the invade, or immediately go into a more cross-map, split map type situation, and that is where they are going to end up for now. We'll see if they hard commit to that, as it does look like Hecarim is going to go down and do that full 3-camp clear on that bot side. Very likely we'll see Xerxes be able to complete that himself as well, and it's just going to go into a cross-map situation where Huni is the one kind of isolated. Immortals are going to be playing towards their top lane, but their bot lane could be in trouble here. If they can't actually clear out some minions and get level 2, Spica's going to hit 3 here, and you could get dove.
Yeah, they really could. Here comes the attempt. They need to knock down a couple more minions. They're not going to get it, so there's the big combo. The flash is not going to matter. First blood already in there for Lost, and Destiny's in a bad spot as well. However, the health bars are getting a little bit low. They can reset the turret. They will not get much more out of this, but what a beautiful start to this game. TSM focusing on bot lane. They get a first blood at 2.5.
Really well done there. You have the Pantheon, so much damage. An easy setup from your support position very early on. They set up that cross-map position with the invade level 1. They take away the red buff, do a bot camp clear, and they have this timed out so that Spica will hit level 3 right as the dive is ready to go. He pops the ghost. He has the E active. Raze flashes away, pops his cleanse, but he's still level 1. And there's so much damage coming in. There was never a chance to survive that one. So really good stuff here from TSM. But I wonder, could Immortals have fought more heavily for the wave, knowing that it is this split map situation? Could they have tried to take down an extra minion or 2 earlier? Because that's all it would have taken to maybe change things up.
So I was watching it pretty closely. There were still 3 melees alive, so that's a lot of damage to deal, right? So they would have to play the lane a lot more aggressively. And TSM was playing the 2-on-2 in their phase from the very, very start. I'm not sure if Destiny should have learned Headbutt at 1. I don't know this 2-on-2 all that well. I've not played a ton of this exact matchup. But basically, Immortals, from the very start, were getting attacked and had to cede the wave. Again, maybe they could have played it differently, but yeah, they were not close to 2. TSM kind of ensured that. If they had Pulverize, as soon as Sword Art lands a stun, you pulverize him, and he's got it out of the turret afterwards. So, different abilities may have changed that fight as well. But regardless, yeah, as it was, they were not close to getting 2 themselves.
Yeah, and this buy hurts now because not only did he not get a kill, over on the side of Raze, he didn't get any farm before he died, right? So now he's not down that much farm, but he didn't get to spend any gold. So you look at the current items in inventory. Lost went back, bought 2 long swords and a refillable. Raze went back and bought a control ward.
Yeah.
As in not the most exciting buy there for a marksman after you've already been killed off once and have no summoners. So if TSM can lock them into this laning phase and not allow Raze to get an easy base off, it's going to be a tough spot.
And even if you are a Vision stan, Lost got a control ward too. He just put it down, so now you can't even gank him. He's got a ward in Tri-Brush. Okay, that one finally got control warded by Raze, so congrats, but he's got one in River. There's not even a gank path out there, and fortunate for Lost, even his flash is still up, so he's going to feel pretty comfortable overall. And hey, look, Xerxes came bot lane, and he's like, yeah, this ain't possible. Even though he's level 5, he's got stats, but they just don't think they can kill Sword Art.
Yeah, and you don't know where Spica is. That's the real danger, is they haven't had eyes on Spica in a while. So if you go for that play and Spica is in the bush, maybe the game's actually just over, right? If you hard commit to that, this is your moment to try to come back into the game, and instead you just feed over more kills to this Kai'Sa, put him further and further ahead, then that can be devastating. So they decide to just bide their time, try to survive as best they can, and not risk their game on this engage.
What's interesting is they probably could have forced it because Destiny had flash. You could flash headbutt pull Sword Art when he goes for a melee minion and just run Xerxes in there. Yeah, again, the risk is really high. The game might just end if he is getting counter ganked, so not going to happen. TSM getting a very early dragon now at 548. That's a pretty nice one there as well. Yeah. So all across the board is going to feel comfortable. Huni is splitting farm with Revenge. It's an uninteractive top lane. Will say, though, Revenge has been doing nicely. He got to walk back to lane once with some items, able to collect the rest of this wave, meaning his farm's going to look good. So Revenge is winning up there, at least by a little bit, as Huni's now going to match the lane himself. Mid lane's fine. Jungle is, of course, yes, the gank is nice on Spica's side, but at least they're farming equally. Bot diff is the important part of this game. Only a 300 gold difference between these teams.
Yep, not a huge difference, and Raze has done a fine job of getting farm, after that first blood, has been keeping fairly even, so once he gets a buy-in, the power is not going to be so far different. Revenge did do a good job in the early laning phase, as you were saying. This is an expected winning matchup for Shen, so the fact that he's actually up in farm is a pretty big win. The one kind of wrinkle to that is he did go Grasp to do it, and Conqueror is very effective against tanks, especially when you get later on into the game. That is one of the reasons that you can start to take over in that 1v1. So sacrificing a bit of the mid and late game for this early game power, and as a result, we'll have to kind of track if that ends up being worthwhile.
Yep, tier pickup on both sides for the mid laners, as kind of expected. Any mana-hungry mid gets a lot of value out of just picking up tier and using it. Very, very, very strong item this season. Can't recommend it enough. Gonna feel comfortable. And yeah, second or third item, you go Saris, because at that point, it's just a really efficient source of ability power. PoE pretty much constantly saying, hey, I'm gonna try to force you back with the W. If the stun lands, like last time, he puts in the ult and the E and chunks the guy a bit low. Insanity's health pool, not ideal, but not in that much danger of dying, so gonna be just fine down there. Still, the game is only about 500 apart, no gigantic differences, and we're just kind of waiting around now for the next big play. Obviously, TSM comfy with the fact they got the first dragon, but Herald's coming up in 20 seconds, and that's likely to be the next focus.
Spica is here. Destiny's going for this play, but Spica is going to make a bigger difference than this level 5 Alistar will.
They find the stun, but Huni had to flash away, so now Spica's going to try, finds the charge, is going to fear him backwards. Ulti comes down from the Camille, and Destiny just has nowhere to go. The fear was going to be too much for him, is going to get dropped off the table, and now Revenge, yeah, good luck. You've got Xerxes nearby, so you can maybe go for a bit, but get stunned right in front of the turret. Revenge forced to flash away from the play he went for. That's a punish, and Revenge going to take the recall.
Really just underestimating how much damage a Pantheon can do. Yes, it is a support Pantheon, but he already has that serrated Dirk, and you have the Doran's Blade HP, but he had bought that Sheen, he had bought a Cull, he didn't really have any defensive stats. So Pantheon with the Empowered Q, with the Ignite, does so much damage. Ooh. They're trying to answer this play though, and Sword Art's already really low. TP coming in from Revenge.
Xerxes 7 with Flash could go for the big sleep, but ultimately with Raze not there, it would be engaging a 4v5, and sleep or not, that seems pretty bad when Power of Evil and Lost still have their own ultimates available. So it is TSM sending all 5 to get Rift Herald, and with Summoner Teleport, who's going to be able to not lose any plates down there?
Okay, so we can watch this one more time as the teleports did come through. Power of Evil backing way off to make sure that his TP wasn't able to be answered. And remember, Orianna had already TP'd back to lane, so that makes it a complete bailout here for Immortals, as Destiny was always slated to go down. One minor note is I do think that Cloud is actually really good here with the ultimate CDR reduction. Because TSM has so many impactful ultimates, all these champions actually have pretty long cooldowns on the ultimates and do play pretty heavily around them. So always going to feel really nice to be able to grab that early Cloud.
Yeah, I really agree. And it's interesting because I think both proactive and reactive ultimates do benefit from the cooldown reduction. Let's take Shen, for example. Let's say you're not a proactive team and you're just going to Shen to keep it alive. If there's a really long window between that being there to save you and an enemy team is pushing you really aggressively, well, that's frequently gone. It's frequently not up, and Huni can't save anyone. But it's in a proactive game where he's going to be joining Spica, he's going to be joining Sword Art, they're going to be going all the time. That's just a ton of pressure. They're just going to be constantly at Immortals' throats, and it's going to feel really good in those games as well. So this one's going to feel really nice. 1,400 gold lead. Obviously, they got the Herald, no problem. Next Dragon's coming up pretty soon. Destiny looks for a Hex Flash play, not going to find it, as Lost just goes for the Control Ward instead. Hands the gold over to Sword Art. What a true homie. Going to give Sword Art extra money there so he can get his Umbral Glaive sooner.
Going to be feeling pretty good about that. And to speak about the Shen a little bit, I am always much more of a fan of the proactive Shen plays than the reactive ones. Sometimes you have no choice and you just have to drop your ult to actually save your teammates, and okay, that's fine. It's not an incorrect ulti, but when you are setting up the play, you're just so much more likely to get value from it. And because especially in the early levels when you're not purchasing CDR and the cooldown is very long at rank 1, a lot of the time, if someone's just really low and you just have to drop the ulti, you get nothing more than maybe saving their lives. You can't actually get a kill off of it. Whereas when you're setting up the play, when it's on a dive, the Hecarim is going to get you access onto the back line. You will be there for the taunt. It is often much more valuable.
Yes. And you just get so much done. You can keep the pressure going. You get the objective afterwards. Mountain Drake is alive. Spica's like, I'm here. I'm galloping down to the bottom side. It's time for the next one. And this is kind of amazing. Like, TSM are basically going to the source of the global. Like, normally you'd want to attack the Shen, because who's he going to save? He can't, ninjutsu himself. He's just got to die. And TSM are like, nah, it's fine. Actually, Shen's the strong side. Which is counterintuitive. That's not... Yes, I know his match is supposed to be good into Camille, and yes, it's working well, and obviously he's got that kill and whatnot, but I mean, if TSM are winning the Shen side of the map, like, imagine the side where the Shen can join at the drop of a hat. Like, this is just TSM in complete control.
They're looking really, really good. They're having a pretty strong early game here for themselves. Both Dragons taking it on very early. Pantheon looking for an ulti top.
Straight up 2-on-2, Pulverize and the Shen. Here we go. They won the bottom side. They're going to win this one even through the ulti. There is just no way out. The feathers fly. They don't matter. The root doesn't do anything. TSM are marching towards perfect game pace right now up against Immortals.
They're crushing. You talked about it. It was you could feel it in your bones. They were going to make that play on the other side of the map. How strong was that other side going to be? Well, pretty damn strong. Sword Art just straight up ulted on top of the Alistar, despite the fact that Destiny had his ultimate. It was some nice CC layering. Sword Art hits the stun, that forces the Alistar ult. Then Huni had saved his taunt for right after. There's just no escaping that. And Huni even here going for the Iceborne. It is actually Frostfire Gauntlet, excuse me. This is pretty strong if you want to try to continue to win in your 1v1. It's an item that I do really like because it can allow you to chase down the Camille. When you get ahead and you can outstat your opponent, go for an early Bramble, pick up the Frostfire, it allows you to win these melee matchups for longer than normal, but does have a little bit less utility than some of the other options.
Pulverized lands, Xerxes running away. This is already one kill on the Destiny, and the Herald charge is going to be pretty easy as well. Lost is able to get his share of the gold. Herald's not going to get too much more, but we're 1 minute away from turret plates dropping. And though technically one plate was killed in bottom lane, you can see that 4 on the minimap, no one has earned plate gold on Immortals' side. Even if you're going to be the biggest stickler of a perfect game, earning plate gold has also not been done by Immortals here.
So another nice play here from TSM. Xerxes looking for something, but Sword Art coming from that river. Spica's already there. Right place, right time. They're able to get another easy kill on the Alistar, who did not have his ultimate. So Destiny having a bit of a rough one. 0 and 3. He is going the Aftershock build, which gives him a bit of extra tankiness, but still, when you're this far behind, if you don't have your ultimate, you're pretty much paper.
Yeah, he really is. This is a tough look. This is really a tough look for Immortals here. They had picked up a couple of great wins. Evil Geniuses yesterday, Team Liquid right off of their lock-in victory back in week 1. But TSM right now, way too tough of a task for them. They're at this point losing almost every single lane. Insanity's doing fine. He's trading farm with the Victor in mid, but otherwise it's bleeding all across the map. Top lane finally took some damage, may have at most lost a plate, but that's a great taunt. Huni gonna lock him right up, can't go any farther. Kill number 5. TSM just keeps picking up extra gold.
That's the proactive ultimates twice in a row. You see Huni going towards that top side. He was playing bot side. Sword Art in the previous one. Ults up towards top lane. Immediate Shen ult coming through. They get the kill there. Then this time it is Spica he is grouping up with. As soon as the ult is ready, you want to look to make that play. TSM have been on point with it and are cruising in this game. They're even going to be able to grab an easy second Herald here. They take down that tower. They will likely lose their bottom lane tower there, so no chance of a perfect game after that.
Rip.
Still, TSM is looking really, really good.
They are. What a good turnaround for them, especially when you consider the opening of the week was like, well, you beat Golden Guardians, but it looked really ugly. But yeah, they took the game to TL. They are taking the game to Immortals. Sure, you lost a turret, but honestly, you're taking so much more that it's going to be fine. TSM turning the corner early on in the season. Yep, no way out of this one. And a great taunt.
Exactly. Taunt flash, that was just perfectly done there from Huni. Revenge even flashed before the hookshot to try to make sure he wouldn't get interrupted on it, but Huni with a great follow there, locking him up, and now grabbing Lucidity Boots, reducing those cooldowns. Can feel really, really nice. I think in the past, CDR had been a pretty undervalued stat on Shen in competitive play. People really didn't go towards it, but especially when you have a game where you are ahead and you can look to make plays every single time that ultimate is up, that CDR is very, very valuable.
Yeah, definitely some good stuff right here. Double checking Frostfire, I believe. No, it is the Mythic passive still just for health and size and whatnot, but I think it's the ability haste is on the Turbo Chem tank, because I thought that got moved off of
there is some
agent.
ability haste, I think, on the actual item.
Yeah, they all do, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So you have 20 on that, and then you get the Lucidity Boots. You have the Cloud Soul, they're not Soul, but the Cloud buff from the Dragon. So Huni can have a reasonably quick ultimate there.
Yeah.
And if you grab Bramble from here, you can actually just scrap pretty effectively with Revenge.
Yeah, I mean, he's already looking pretty good. The CS is pretty equal, but obviously his actual income is much higher thanks to all the kills he's been a part of and the turrets and whatnot. So TSM get their second turret by knocking down bot lane outer. The mid laners are just on their island. Yeah, Power People showed up once for the top lane play, and that looked pretty nice, but it's just, you know, it's about everything but mid lane, really, in this game. Everything but mid lane is having things going on. They're just like, Insanity's just watching his teammates die. He's like, I liked more when I was on Tristana, and you guys just fed me on Seraphine. Like, all right, I'll just keep wave clearing. And I'm sure there's more he could be doing, don't get me wrong, right? Maybe the roams could have been better or something else, but he's just watching everything fall apart around him, and it's like, oh, that's too bad. Part of people's like, this is great. This is cool. Team everything but mid, apparently, in this game.
I mean, it's tough because if you start roaming too much on Insanity, if you're the Orianna and you're trying to run around the map, Victor has such effective wave clear that you're going to be losing your mid lane tower, right? You take a couple of roams, the wave is always going to be at your turret, you're going to be falling behind. You know, you're not the most powerful roaming champion, and because he had that early TP that had to go back to lane, thanks to some strong laning from Power of Evil, that's really the only time that Power of Evil even left his lane, right? Was that one TP towards top, and that was the advantage that he kind of gained through his laning phase. So for both of these players, they're both on really strong scaling champions, mages that can make a big difference in the team fight. And for Insanity, he's just trying to get strong and hope that he can find a big shockwave come team fight time, because they're going to have to find it here pretty quick. I think if you give over Ocean Soul to this team that already has a really strong Shen, the game is going to become so hard.
Yeah, I mean, you're already losing the DPS check, and it just tips the scale so much worse when they start regenning, you know, 50 health a second or so in the middle of a fight. So that's a tough one there. Xerxes, I actually disagree, especially in this game of doing the Zhonya's rush. I think it made sense in the previous one where you're against like TF and a bunch of point-and-click stuns. This one, I think you just need to be a threat. Like, you just need to help tip the scales towards bursting someone, and I wanted to see Night Harvester, like, by this point in time, so that you can actually try to knock someone down over the battle itself. Is also going for the healing build. Again, really doesn't make sense with the fact that you're already behind. Like, you're not winning a long fight, you need to be dealing damage. So disagree with Xerxes' choice. It's not the biggest part of this game. Obviously, so much more is going wrong for Immortals that I don't gotta dwell on it too long. But you know, you gotta play a riskier build if you're behind, because you have to take the risks to win.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that sort of thought process, and we'll just have to see if there is any longer fights where, you know, it makes a difference, or if there's a short fight where they barely miss out on that extra damage. That's when you know those builds really could have changed the swing of things. But thus far, TSM cruising. Gonna look for a play here on bot side, though.
All right, they get the Shen ult out. They snipe him down to half HP. The Swirl Seed's not gonna land at all. It hits minions and nothing else. And Revenge got ignited, gets dropped down to half health. Had to walk away from that one. Bot lane turret dies. TSM already got turret number 3, and PoE probably gonna knock down turret number 4. So TSM increased their gold lead to 4,000 gold, and we are 3 minutes away from Ocean Soul.
That's going to be the big fight. Immortals have to challenge at that mark, and they're just trying to get as much gold as they possibly can to set up a potential team fight win at that Ocean Soul. We can see the kind of two different sides. The defensive Shen ult used there. Immortals, as soon as they see that Shen ult coming through, they just back off, and yes, he keeps his teammate alive, but doesn't get anything more from that, you know, compared to the previous ones we had seen. And now they're going to try to attack Huni, knowing he will be coming up towards this top side to answer. 3 members here from Immortals, hoping that Huni walks to ward or walks a greedy way, because I think if he's at the turret, I don't think you can dive this guy. So he's got to come out a little bit further, and if he does try to push out the next wave, I think he could potentially kill him. But as long as Huni's playing it safe, he knows members are missing.
Are they willing to try? I mean, they're spending so much time, and Huni, he's Spidey senses it, right? He's like, look, I see Ori answering mid, but no one's answering bot lane. Like, it's already been pushed in past the river, and I mean, good by Huni, right? Like, good read, well played. You know, in retrospect, the best chance was hitting the melee minions. I don't fault them for saying maybe he'll go next wave, but it's a lot of time spent for nothing, and that's just like, well, I'm sorry, Immortals, you tried, and maybe you could have taken a bigger risk than that, but you just get nothing.
I just think they wouldn't have been able to ever kill him unless he's pretty far up. He didn't use his taunt. You know, he has 2 completed items as a very high level member in this game. You know, so Xayah would be basically doing nothing to him. You're pretty much dependent upon Xerxes to be able to burst him down. But this is, I think, a great example of Huni just playing smarter, right? It's these kind of moments that Huni was getting punished for in lock-in and even in some of their earlier games, where he's playing weak side and he was getting criticized constantly for, well, Huni, you're on weak side, you don't see anybody. Why are you walking up and dying on Gnar when they could be in the area? And this is a great example of Huni, you know, evolving as a player, learning in this game that he doesn't need to risk that. Yes, he is losing a couple minions. Yes, you want to go grab that farm, but when players are missing and the only way that Immortals can come back in this game is getting picks, the risk reward just isn't there. So he makes the smart play, he sits back, and as a result, TSM going to be fully ready for this next dragon. They have all summoners available by the time that dragon spawns. Sword Art missing his Ignite, but that is going to be up. It's going to be a full-on battle, 5v5. You must expect every ultimate, every summoner going to be up.
And the gold growing and growing and growing. And TSM, 23 seconds and counting until Ocean Drake spawns. And Immortals will have to try to battle this one. They got rid of one ward. They get rid of a second one. They're trying to walk in. Scryer's movement, I like that spot inside the brush, and Revenge gonna walk in, look for Lost, look for Spica. The teammate's far away, but yeah, lockdown might have been worth it. You keep Lost in for long enough that the team can rejoin. Yeah, I could see it. Shen, of course, the top side. Huni, we know he's gonna ult down. Revenge has to run away from this one. Now the hookshot down for a second, but Immortals, they are gonna actively lose their base until they force Huni to join. Dealing damage to Dragon. They really can't delay any longer. They just must keep the pressure on. Here comes Spica with Huni coming around. They find the first bit of a dunk. Insanity gonna flash away. Shockwave on the 2. The re-dive comes across. Lost over the top as well. Xerxes gets 1, and it's time to kite away. It's a 1-for-1 fight so far. Sorta at 5 health, but lives. And TSM are winning the fight by 3 kills to 1 now, as Xerxes and Revenge are now just running away. You have to imagine if he had 5 more damage, they get 1 more kill, and it looks a little bit nicer. But at the end of the day, the Ocean Drake is gonna be knocked down here pretty easily. It is a 4v2 on the map. Stardust running back over, has his ulti. Xerxes, you're flashless, you're ulti-less. This is not a dragon you're going to get. You're not going to make it happen. They can try with the Swirl Seed. It's not going to come through. Ocean Drake, Ocean Soul comes through for TSM.
TSM got everything they need now, it feels like, to close out this game. Immortals had a pretty good start to the fight, though. You know, Revenge had a critical ultimate to actually lock Spica in, so he didn't get really any distance. If you track Spica in this fight, the beginning of it goes fairly well for Immortals. So Revenge lands the hook shot, ults him in. So look at the ultimate from Spica, went nowhere. And then the shockwave comes across both of them, but the problems arise when Lost on the other side knows that shockwave is down, can go aggressive, and despite the start of it looking pretty good for them, there's no threats left for the Kai'Sa. He can fly into the back line, taking down multiple members and allowing them to secure that fight, secure the Ocean Soul, and really get very, very close to locking up this game.
Xerxes, the biggest damage threat in his team, and it could have been more. Wouldn't have changed a whole lot about this game, but I'm sorry. I'm hung up on the build. We'll move on. But I really hate it. It's being a sheep and not thinking about how the game's actually going. So, you didn't even use the zonies in the fight. Yeah.
To play devil's advocate here, one thing I will say is going for the cheaper item build here allowed him to have 2 items completed for that dragon fight, right? If you go Night Harvester, you don't have your zonias completed, so there is the other side of the coin.
Yeah.
You know, I hear you. You would have liked the other build, but
Night Harvester stopwatch. It's a good build. Just do that. Anyway, yeah, there's a fight going on. They're going to go for the play right now to Spica. Half HP already. Big damage there. Going to go for the re-engage. And wow, he's deleted. He's just gone. Revenge, goodbye. I know it's a 7,000 gold deficit. It's not a lot you get to do. Yeah, rough stuff going on. TSM taking more control over this one. Ocean Soul with the regen. And they're going to maybe set up Baron a little bit here. They've got Huni back in with the mix. Obviously, he's got 40 haste and items. He's got the Cloud Dragon to make it faster. Yeah, every single time they want it, Huni can join.
And you have Ocean Soul, so the Baron isn't that threatening, right? You can kind of tank it up and just heal through it. They have Power Heal and Sword Art zoning. They want to force a fight here. They know Xerxes also has no flash, so he can't even get to the pit.
Oh, big shockwave finds him a single kill in a second. At least there's some follow-up in Immortals. Can they get more out of the 4v3? They get the slow, but the sleep's not back available yet. That cooldown's too long. They get 2 kills. You still take Baron for 2 kills every day of the week, but at least signs of life for Immortals.
Insanity has been good with the shockwaves. Both in the lost fight around the Dragon Pit, he found a good one. Here again, he finds that 2-man shockwave, allowing them to get something back here as Destiny setting it up. Great engage from him, flashes in, headbutt pull right into that shockwave. Xerxes getting damage over top as well. But TSM had already taken down the Baron and are extending that gold lead here up near around 7,000. For Immortals, you're just praying for an Elder Dragon. That's really your only hope at this point. They've bought up a fair bit of healing reduction now. At this point, you can see Raze went straight towards that upgraded healing reduction with Immortal Reminder, so he can get towards that 60%. If you do hit, I think it's 3 times within 2 seconds. That actually does apply. They have an Oblivion Orb on Xerxes. They have an Executioner's on Revenge. But you also need enough damage to get through just the pure tankiness and the stats that they have. So it's so tough because you're so far behind. You have to buy these items. But as a result, your DPS is also lower. So it's like, how are you ever going to kill this level 16 Huni who's closing in on 3 items here and has Ocean Soul?
Right, yeah, and yes, you have to do it, but yeah, you went Mortal Reminder instead of what, maybe a Phantom Dancer or something, and okay, maybe you say we should have forced someone else. Like, they do have Healing Cut on the Lilia now. They've got it on the Camille for a while, so 3 people with sources. Maybe not wrong to make sure that you can always apply the cut, but yeah, you'd love to have a more efficient build if you could help it. That just is more pure damage, but sometimes it's just what you're forced to do here. Ward's going down, mid lane turret gonna fall. TSM already at 6 there. The Immortals have managed to get 3 kills and a turret all game. Insanity finishes Void Staff. That's going to be nice. Probably Seraph's next up on the docket, but Mana get to finish it this game. Red Bull Baron, still a minute left, and still gold positive. Like, this is TSM, who lost 2 champions as the Baron went down, and still have a positive gold difference from all the turrets they're killing.
And you look at the itemization, and that's where it starts to really hurt, is they're looking for Huni, but don't think you can actually kill him. He's just going to turn and fight.
Taunts in. Revenge has to indeed hook shot out. 2 level difference. Double Pulverize comes across, but Huni not an easy target. Sword Art comes in. The taunt as well. And okay, Zhonya's cutting its weight there. Is Ursa going to stay alive? Flash the way. Stays in there. Power People can't find the kill, so okay. That act has been useful. Insanity trying to get away. Able to do so just barely. But now Immortals are forced to run back to the base, heal up as TSM takes every single structure.
Lost was killing the top side. Power of Evil now going to be able to knock down this mid lane tower. Immortals trying to look. They do force out some flashes there, so Power of Evil and Lost did both lose their flash, but they have a base in absolute shambles.
The flash, shield comes down, puts his own up, and Sword Art doesn't even lose health as the fight comes across. Raze ults, tries to cut away, and yeah, he lives. But oh my gosh, was that costly. Huni's ult's going to come back before too long, and they can just keep the siege going. Baron buff timing out, sure, but TSM with some golden pockets decide, okay, no mid inhib yet. We will reset it. We know the Dragon's coming up in 35 seconds. Let's not risk losing champions right in front of the Elder. And they also may not get to shop as a result. So most of the gold right now is not getting spent. I'm imagining over 1,000 gold per member of TSM unspent, except for maybe Huni got to recall.
Yeah, Huni recalls. Power of Evil will as well. Looks like they're just going to call for the reset either way, because Death Cap is probably ready, I would imagine, for Power of Evil.
Yeah.
Not sure how much more gold some of these members would have, but the item completions are just so big. Lost has 3 full items, the Death Cap on top of everything that Insanity has. TSM are in retreat. Immortals are trying to pick off the members who didn't recall, but now the rest of the team has reconvened.
Getting that Scuttle is such a big deal because it means they know what Immortals are up to the entire time. Going for the pick on Sword Art, they know the cooldowns are gone this time around, but they can't quite get into the fight. Pee-wee zones them out. Headbutt Pulve comes across to get a deletion. They get 1. They're looking for Huni now as well, but Speaking coming around the backhand side, looking for Xerxes. Shockwave not going to catch anything. It's a 2-for-1 so far. The re-engage finds a kill. 3-on-3, but Lost is here. He's already got a triple, and he's looking for the Quadra. Revenge is forced to flash away. The Devil for Insanity not enough to carry this fight. It's a 10,000 gold difference. There's minions inside the base, and the Ocean's still standing back up. Revenge is going to die for this one, and this is TSM. Whoop, they get the snipe, they get the killer instinct, and Lost gets an unofficial Quadra, walked into the base. TSM with the Bud Light Ace gonna take home a victory, a 3-0 weekend, and a 4-2 record puts him in 3rd place.
Nicely done, TSM. Back-to-back days, looking strong here. Looking proactive with the Shen ultimates, controlling the Dragons, getting that soul. Really a great showing from them here today, and we saw them looking really aggressive even in the early stages. That was one of your criticisms about them yesterday against EL. This time they had that very early dive on bot lane. They had the really intelligent level 1 to set up this cross-map situation where they take over the enemy's red side jungle. They farm those 3 camps. Spica hits 3 right as the wave crashes, perfectly timed out, immediate dive, putting their bot lane ahead from the word go. And we saw Lost coming up big in a lot of these team fights. Huni also on the other side of the map, smart when he needed to be, playing back when he was weak side, when they didn't have eyes on all the members and he could be at risk, playing patiently. And this is a TSM that feels like they're hitting their stride a bit. We have to see them continue to put together more wins, but this is more what people were expecting. This was what they paid for. This is the team that they thought they were building, and they didn't get it as much in lock-in. They didn't get it as much in the earlier games of the LCS split, but they sure as hell are getting it today. They sure as hell got it yesterday. They're looking good.
Yeah, internet, you got to rewrite your memes. TSM lost. He is one of the best performing players on the team, and TSM are on a 4-game winning streak. They lost their opener to FlyQuest, they lost to Cloud9, and they've won 4 straight games, including some of those against some of the top teams in the league right now. Again, TSM are in 3rd at 4-2, off that 4-game winning streak. And the biggest thing is it feels like they have found the identity. I want to harken back to the interview to speak at the beginning of the week after that first win, and it's like, look, we have a lot of players who can play a lot of different ways. They got a lot of champions, we got a lot of different styles. We need to figure out which style works for us. The more I have seen TSM play bot-focused, the better they have looked. I want to see that continue. I love giving Sword Art counterpick. I love giving them priority over the 2-on-2. And Spica spending his early effort going there. The less I see Sword Art roam mid to help PoE, and the more they come down to his lane instead, the better that whole squad looks. And TSM look ready to take on the league if they can play at this level the whole way through. This identity is working for TSM. Lost is up to the challenge. Like, he was the big question mark. He seems good. Huini's playing weak side well. I'm a believer right now in TSM, and we'll see next week if they can keep that one going as well. Now, on the other side, we will hear from Lost in the Verizon post-game interview, so stay tuned for that.
I don't really consider it gear. It's an extension of who I am. It blurs the line between fantasy and reality. Sometimes, I can't tell myself from my machine. I think that's by design.
Welcome back to the LCS and the Verizon post-game interview. I'm here with TSM Lost after TSM won. And I got to start there, Lost, because I don't think this question's ever been asked on the LCS broadcast. Lost is an interesting name choice for a professional player. You know, a job where your success is predicated on winning, and you went for TSM Lost. What's the origins of the name there? Where did that come from?
I mean, my name was Zero before, and now it's Lost, so it's pretty easy to meme. I mean, there's enough memeing throughout my career that, you know, I'm kind of just used to it at this point, but when you win, it doesn't really take into too much effect.
Okay, well,
But,
that's a really great point, because you guys are now all of a sudden smashing. This weekend was incredible. What happened? Where was the turnaround for you guys?
I think it was a combination of like our drafts got a lot more, you know, in sync with, you know, how the players wanted to play, and then I think overall we're just playing better, and, you know, feels like something clicked a little bit, at least for this week in particular. So I'm really happy with the way we played this week, and, you know, we showed up and win 3-0.
Well, within that, we began a conversation on Countdown at the beginning of the week when you guys were sitting at a 1-2 record coming into the week around TSM's ultimate power level, and whether or not that record lied to us about where you guys were. How do you assess your now 4-2 record? Is this legitimate? Do you feel you're better than that? Have you gotten lucky in a couple wins? Where are you at?
Honestly, we could have, like, it was so easy for us to go 0-4. Like, the two wins we got for our 2-2 record, complete heist, like a complete steal on both wins. So honestly, it's pretty hard to judge a team's overall strength, especially if it's only been 2 weeks. And there's going to be so many regular season games for both this split and next split that I think ultimately it just ends up to like who improves faster and who clicks better as a team throughout the split, or both at least.
How do you identify improvement then if you're picking up the victories, but like you said, maybe didn't necessarily deserve a couple of those victories? I mean, because you want to feel good about pulling it out. You want to say, all right, well, we clearly did something right. But so often you have to continue to look to improve. So what's been the process for you guys over there at TSM in ultimately determining what areas of your game you need to target?
I think, like, since it's the second week in, a lot of teams, you know, you want to figure out your identity, you know, how your team wants to play. And then obviously on top of that, you have to do like strong team fundamentals, just game fundamentals in general that you practice in scrims. It takes a while for all of those things to, you know, for your team to become good at. And, you know, some teams don't even find their, you know, team identity or team style until maybe playoffs or like weeks into their season. So improvement is pretty hard to define in general, just like team by team. But I think at the same time, you shouldn't like write a team off just because their record is really bad. You know, maybe their games have looked better, or, you know, maybe they improve a lot based off like 1 week of practice.
I mean, I think that speaks to the kind of the reformatting of the LCS this year, where just because a team is at the back of the pack now doesn't mean that's where they'll be at the end of summer. Final question to you, as you mentioned, you know, time for improvement. You and Sword Art as a duo, a couple months in now, you've had a bit of time to gel. How are you feeling about the way you guys are warming into the league? Because a couple weeks ago, there was a big conversation around top bot lanes rather in the LCS, and there were 3 specifically that people were looking at: 100 Thieves, C9, TL. Well, when does your bot lane become a part of that conversation, or should you be there already?
Well, we just played TL, and you can make the decision after we play 100 Thieves in C9, I guess. And that's
all right.
That's the only way to see it. You just gotta show up, right?
Letting the play speak for itself. I love it. I love to hear that. Well, Lost, as we toss it back to the State Farm Analyst Desk, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to both Dash and Lost. Great to hear from him after that victory. Seems to be keeping expectations for himself and the team somewhat measured, but recognizing how much improvement they have made so far in that effort of kind of figuring out TSM's identity after these 2 victories. Mark, what did you make of the comp that was brought to the table?
I loved it. Obviously, globals are strong, but I liked how they all work together. I mean, this is one of the Sword Art's best champions that we saw last year on the Pantheon. Grabs it again, second game in a row, second game that he looks much better on it. I also like the counterpick Shen to support Spica on Hecarim as a whole, just because I feel like Spica had a lot of support from Bjergsen last year coming from the mid lane, which enabled him to play a little bit more aggressive. And I like seeing them find ways to do it because generally that's not PoE's style. Like he's not going to be the Galio, the Karma mid, this kind of stuff. Usually he's a lot more of a hard carry. And so finding other ways to get these kind of supportive pieces around him with a dive buddy in the Shen was great. And then I just like the fact that it's double global. So like even when Immortals want to make plays around their Camille with this split push, it's going to be hard because Shen's going to be coming in and stuff. So it works well for their team. It works well against the opponent's team. I loved everything about it.
It's cool to see that TSM is getting their bearings, finding their identity here, but know that 11.4 is going to change things again. So even if you can finally find a way how to incorporate your jungler into the mix, now you got to redo it. So I think that TSM can use this for confidence, but this is not a formula that will probably work in the next patch.
But that's the name of the game when it comes to League of Legends. Go ahead, Emily.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I think for me, the big thing that I was always harping on TSM for, and this draft kind of fixes a bit, is, you know, you have a very clear identity to this draft. You know what you want to do with it. And the thing that I was really criticizing TSM for is the fact that it looked like they were kind of all loading into the game and then having a very different idea of how they wanted to play that game. And here the draft supports them all having the same clear identity of like what this team composition wants to do.
That's why I think TSM is so interesting, because it's showing us that a team can look really terrible, but because you're making so many mistakes, it's just one little thing that suddenly puts everything into place and it makes it look so much better. And also in a game like League of Legends, you can just have one game where you run it down and look the worst in the world, and then the next one you actually turn it around. So the discrepancy between one bad game to a good one shouldn't be something that is too sticky on players and always being their identity in that one bad game.
Part of it is correcting the mistakes of times past, but also making sure you don't make them right off the bat here. Emily, we saw a strong start from TSM.
Yeah, so they have a split map, and TSM immediately go for this bot lane dive after they've gone and cleared out bot side jungle. And I think, again, it just shows that they came in, they're like, okay, this is our map setup. This is what we're going to do. We have a very clear-cut understanding of what they want to do early. And I know one thing that I believe Freak brought up in his intro is he was like, yes, TSM looked better, but I'm still really hesitant to say that they were better in the early game specifically. This showed, again, from the draft, a very clear-cut idea of what they wanted to do. There's a split map. We're going to go dive bot. We know we can pull this off. They do. They execute it. And then they were able to pretty much snowball the game from there. It wasn't like a clear snowball, but that was like just a really great start. And I never want to see a team do badly. Like when I criticize teams, I feel like everyone's like, oh, you love like, you know, pooping on teams all the time. You don't. Like you ideally, you want every team to go in and play super well. So I'm happy to see this from TSM.
Yeah, and seeing all of those elements come together, right? Pretty much everyone on the desk has mentioned the fact that there's been a bit of a lack of coordination in some cases for TSM, not necessarily being on the same page. But with the comp that they have brought to the table, Crumbs, it feels like you do have to make sure you're seeing eye to eye with your teammates to make these global plays possible. Yeah,
listen, the Globals has been a plan that Golden Guardians, the development team that we're all looking at as the lowest development team, is using it. The fact that TSM is picking it up just shows that there is a lot of value here, because out of nowhere you're just making such plays that the enemy cannot respond to. It's so easy to find ways to accelerate the game, to come together and synergize on a single play. And so here it is, the Hecarim being comboed with the Shen. What can Revenge do? You really cannot find a way to outplay this one. Yeah, there's nothing that you can do against the Flash as well on top of it. Maybe if you would have dodged with the ultimate when they're ready to commit everything for you, you just have to deal with the global. So it's another thing that IMT have to think about, and it's just a plan that has been working for a lot of teams that TSM has quickly picked up.
Yeah, and just as a whole, I think it works well. There was a lot of those proactive plays that you showed in that replay, but there were a couple of reactive Shen ults as well to help keep people alive in situations. There was a bot play near the inner turret, which kept Sword Art alive through a dive. Like, those are the kinds of things that not only is it helping you find easier opportunities for yourself, but it's negating the opponents. And I think IMT looked really hamstrung this game and seemed a little unsure how they can attack this comp. So that's just another reason why it was so powerful, is not only enables all these things, but it also counters out a lot of the stuff that Immortals tried to do.
I just will put a little bit in here. Shen, really OP, right, with Impact playing it. Good against the Camille, good against Renekton, which are also really important in the meta right now. So I think Shen top might be rising in priority.
And we talked about the Pantheon to like lead off in our when we were talking about, again, 11.3 changes. But the big thing to consider is that it was pretty much just the jungle clear that we were worried about like being nerfed. He's still an incredibly strong support who does still a surprising amount of damage very early on in the game, even without items. And we also saw that here in a lot of Sword Art's early movements as well.
Everything else about Pantheon is still there, and then bringing Shen to the table really did allow TSM to stand united in this fight against Immortals. We are going to be kicking it to a break. When we return, we have EG taking on Dignitas, and it's going to be Captain Flowers and Kobe that are bringing you the cast. We'll see you there.
You've saved me so much on my insurance with that Russell rate. You become my muse.
Russell, State Farm offers everyone surprisingly great rates.
I feel like I captured your kind eyes.
You want the real deal? Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.